The Untold Journey, the complex history of LGBTQ+. What does it really mean to fight for equality, acceptance, and love? What do we truly understand about the origins of the LGBTQ+ community and the journey it has taken to reach this moment? For activists, history is more than just a collection of events. It is a roadmap, a source of wisdom, and a reminder of the power of resilience. In this video, we dive deep into the complex and often untold history of LGBTQ+ individuals, a story of struggle and triumph that continues to unfold. From moments of celebration in ancient times to the oppression of colonial rule, from the revolutionary spirit of Stonewall to today's fight against systemic inequalities, this journey will remind us of where we've been and inspire us to envision where we are headed. Long before modern societies attempted to suppress LGBTQ+ identities, ancient civilizations had their own understanding of gender and sexuality. Sometimes accepting, sometimes conflicting, but undeniably rich and diverse. In ancient Greece, same-sex relationships were both normalized and celebrated in certain contexts, particularly among men in intellectual and military circles. Similarly, ancient Indian texts such as the Kama Sutra acknowledged queer relationships and gender fluidity. In several indigenous cultures, including Native American communities, individuals who embodied both masculine and feminine spirits, referred to as two-spirit people, were held in high regard and seen as vital to their communities. But even early history wasn't without fault. Many ancient societies simultaneously placed restrictions on gender expression or used societal roles to box individuals into rigid norms. Still, a thread of diversity persisted, suggesting that LGBTQ+ identities have always thrived, even in the face of opposition, long before the modern labels we use today. As the centuries advanced, perspectives on LGBTQ+ identities began to shift dramatically, and for the worse. The rise of religious orthodoxy and colonialism brought a wave of oppression that would ripple across history. Colonial invaders sought to impose strict moral and legal codes on the societies they dominated. Sodomy laws, initially spread by colonial powers like Britain, criminalized homosexuality and ingrained discrimination into legal systems worldwide. What once was openly accepted or tolerated in non-Western cultures became taboo or illegal. Religious orthodoxy further amplified this marginalization, casting expressions of love, identity, and desire that didn't fit the heterosexual norm as sins. LGBTQ+ individuals were increasingly driven underground, forced to suppress their identities to avoid persecution and violence. As centuries passed, LGBTQ+ communities became others in carefully constructed heteronormative societies, their lives erased from public records and history. But this forced invisibility did not mark the end of their resilience. The tide began to turn in the 20th century, perhaps most famously with the Stonewall Riots of 1969. For years, LGBTQ+ individuals in New York City and worldwide faced relentless discrimination, harassment, and criminalization simply for existing. But on a humid June night in Greenwich Village, something changed. At the now iconic Stonewall Inn, LGBTQ+ patrons fought back against a police raid, a spark that ignited days of riots and protests against systemic oppression. Stonewall became the symbol of resistance, fueling the birth of modern LGBTQ+ activism. The first Pride marches, held 1 year later in 1970, marked a new era. LGBTQ+ individuals began reclaiming public spaces, demanding respect, and declaring, "We are here to stay." This defining moment taught activists a lesson that remains vital today. Change does not happen quietly. It must be loud. It must be unafraid. It must refuse to accept the unjust rules that have silenced too many voices for too long. Less than 2 decades later, the LGBTQ+ community faced a new battle, the HIV/AIDS epidemic. By the 1980s, this devastating virus was tearing through communities, disproportionately affecting gay men. Yet, instead of empathy, the world responded with stigma, moral judgment, and inaction. For governments, AIDS was someone else's problem. Mainstream media used homophobic rhetoric, dubbing it the gay plague. LGBTQ+ individuals and their allies were left to care for their own, to mourn the dead while fighting against a society that seemed indifferent to their suffering. And fight they did. Activist groups like ACT UP emerged, demanding resources, treatment, and respect for individuals with HIV/AIDS. Their fight was not just for survival, it was for visibility, for the dignity of their community, and for a shift in how the world viewed LGBTQ+ lives. Though the crisis claimed countless lives, it also brought unity, resilience, and a legacy of defiant activism that continues to inspire movements today. Despite the tragedies, the LGBTQ+ community saw triumphs. With each passing decade, monumental strides continued to shape history. The early 2000s and 2010s saw the legalization of same-sex marriage in many countries, from the Netherlands, pioneering the way in 2001, to the United States in 2015 and beyond. The repeal of the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy in 2011 allowed LGBTQ+ individuals to serve openly in the military. Countries and organizations slowly began to recognize the rights and humanity of transgender individuals, though far more work remains. These victories didn't come without blood, sweat, and tears. Activists, allies, and everyday community members made, and continue to make, incredible sacrifices to shift legal and cultural landscapes. These moments of progress are a testament to persistence and the undeniable power of hope and collective action. History books may occasionally mention figures like Harvey Milk or Marsha P. Johnson, but countless others have paved the way for LGBTQ+ equality in quieter, subtler ways. Activists like Sylvia Rivera, who tirelessly advocated for trans rights when much of the LGBTQ+ movement risked leaving trans individuals behind. Artists like Audre Lorde and James Baldwin, who used their craft to challenge the very fabric of a discriminatory society. Community leaders who gave everything to create safe spaces, whether in backrooms, underground clubs, or places of worship. This history isn't just shaped by global icons or leaders in headlines. It's powered by unsung heroes in every neighborhood, working to carve out spaces where everyone can live authentically and with dignity. The victories of the past do not signal the end of the battle. Today, millions of LGBTQ+ individuals worldwide still face violence, legal persecution, and erasure. In over 60 countries, homosexuality is still criminalized, and in some regions, it is punishable by death. Transgender individuals remain among the most marginalized, often the targets of hate crimes and discriminatory healthcare laws. Even in supposedly progressive societies, anti-LGBTQ+ rhetoric persists, amplified by political agendas and cultural backlash. From restrictive bathroom bills to bans on queer education in schools, discrimination continues to find new ways to take form. As activists, it's crucial to stay vigilant and recognize that each generation must fight to protect the victories of the past and push for further progress. The fight for LGBTQ+ equality is not a linear path. It's a dynamic, ever-evolving journey in which everyone has a role to play. This history may be complex, filled with both light and shadow, but it is brimming with lessons, resilience, and power. For activists today, it offers a profound roadmap for action. It teaches us the necessity of collective solidarity, the importance of centering the stories of the most marginalized, and the truth that progress requires a tenacious spirit. So how can you be a part of this legacy? Learn from the past. Share what you know. Support LGBTQ+ organizations and causes that work to protect and expand rights. Challenge prejudice whenever you encounter it, and advocate for policies that promote inclusion, equity, and justice. Most importantly, remember that the fight for LGBTQ+ equality belongs to all of us, not just to the people directly affected. True allies offer more than kind words. They take bold, actionable steps toward a more inclusive future. The complex history of the LGBTQ+ community is still unfolding. It's a story rich with lessons, fueled by courage, and defined by a relentless demand for visibility and equality. It reminds us of how far we've come and how far we have yet to go. As we reflect on this history, let it inspire us to act. Share this knowledge. Amplify its lessons. Stand in solidarity with those fighting battles you may not personally face. Because every small action today shapes the course of history tomorrow. The journey is far from over, but how it evolves is up to us. Let's walk forward together, proud, fearless, and united.